The agenda this week assessed efforts to improve maternal mental health and address inequality of outcomes for racialized families. We met a crop of rookie MPPs to find out what they're hoping to accomplish in office, learned how 2 new Indigenous-led initiatives aim to bring issues into sharper focus, and we reflected on family and middle age with American humorist David Sedaris. The Agenda's Week in Review begins looking at why the road safety program Vision Zero hasn't yet made streets safer in Hogtown. Last week, there was a 58-year-old woman who was cycling. She was killed by a flatbed truck 10 minutes from Toronto City Hall. What demographic, or can you tell us, can you help us out understand what demographic seems to be the most vulnerable out there to these kinds of incidents?
Looking at the Toronto specific, it's senior population. It's the older population that seem to be at the most risk. And so, as Jay said, we have to look at the infrastructure of our roadways to see what is the cause. Are these pedestrians trying to cross mid-block because the crosswalks or the lights are too far for them to walk? At what time of the day is it? Often we see it in bad weather, and so visibility is bad. So we have to take a data approach, and that's what the City of Toronto is doing. We have a case study actually on our website that looks at both Toronto and Edmonton and their data-based approach to Vision Zero. And I would just echo what Jay said. This is long-term. Sweden saw a significant reduction. They've been at this for over 20 years. So we're
in Edmonton a long time as well,
Edmonton's
right?
about 8 or 9. And they've started to see significant changes. But because Vision Zero is not focused on educating people's behavior, obviously that's part of it. It has to be a part of the equation. Vision Zero's approach is really about changing the design and the roadway physical layout, as well as enforcing the bylaws and the laws and legislation that's put into place. And it's those two things together that make the biggest difference.
More on that as we continue our conversation. Marcus, you've written about this, you've thought about this. What's going on here?
Well, you know, I think what's going on in a way is, it was going to say odd to say, but encouraging, because what we have here is a real sense of outrage in Toronto. I mean, for years and years, we've been accepting that pedestrians and cyclists are just going to die on our streets routinely, and it doesn't get much attention. But suddenly, with these recent cluster of deaths, you've had a real kind of strong, almost uprising of outrage. People are saying this cannot be allowed to continue. And so the mayor has come under very heavy pressure to accelerate his Vision Zero approach. And people are calling for more money to be spent, more change to be made. The letters to the editor in the paper I saw today are just full of people arguing about this. Drivers saying it's all cyclists and pedestrians' fault, and cyclists and pedestrians being outraged about the lack of attention being paid by drivers. So we're at a real moment here, and I think we should seize it.
Now, is that constructive? If everybody's pointing the finger and saying, it's not my kind of road user, it's the other kind of road user who's responsible for this carnage, is that constructive?
No, I mean, it's not at all. I mean, we have this constant argument. Drivers call it, and the Ford brothers famously called it, the war on the car. And so the idea is that pedestrians and cyclists don't belong on the streets at all. They're taking over and getting in our way, and that's the reason we're having all these casualties. On the other hand, you have some pretty bad behavior, you have to say, by pedestrians and cyclists too. You know, rogue cyclists who blast through stop signs and so on. So I think what we need is for people to realize we have to share these streets together. We have a problem of human lives being lost, and people are trying to save 30 seconds, say, by dodging through that yellow light if they're driving, or similarly for cyclists. Everybody needs to slow down and think about the other person.
Well, here's what the former chief planner for the City of Toronto asked us all to think about. This is Jennifer Keesmaat, who of course takes to Twitter quite frequently to share her views on things. And she had this to say: tragedy on Toronto's streets again. It's too much to take. It's unbearable. It's time to declare a state of emergency and immediately begin with the basics. First step is to lower speed limits, apropos of what you just said, and enforce them. The game playing, pretending we don't know what to do, must stop. What's your take on that?
Well, I say she should run for mayor. because we need that kind of attitude at City Hall.
You don't think we have it now?
I think we do have that. We do have it, but that's visionary, her comment, and implementation is challenging. So I do think we do, have support for this at City Hall. There's no doubt. But I think if she feels she can do better, I would encourage her to run for mayor. Bottom line is we have put together an exhaustive plan that's comprehensive, that's now being really touted as one of the best in the world. Other cities are coming to us to say, how did you do this? How are you accelerating this? How are you getting the additional investments? And bottom line is we're implementing senior safety zones, community safety zones, school safety zones at an unprecedented level.
Let's get into some numbers, the numbers that we do have. And these are some numbers from a recent Statistics Canada report on infant health for Indigenous communities across Canada. These numbers for the Indigenous population include First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, and this is per 1,000 live births. So preterm birth and non-Indigenous, you can see it's 0.67, Indigenous is 0.87, stillbirth 5.6, Indigenous higher, almost double at 9.0, infant death 4.4 for non-Indigenous, again almost double for Indigenous at 9.6, and for SIDS it's 0.3 for non-Indigenous, and for Indigenous it's 2.0. And SIDS is sudden infant death syndrome.
That's right.
And Sarah, you've been involved in Indigenous perinatal health care as a midwife and researcher for 20 years. What's behind these numbers?
Well, I think it still goes back to a lot of these things that we're already talking about, the racism and discrimination and the differential access that Indigenous families and other racialized families are experiencing in the healthcare system, and it's like time to start thinking outside of the box. I mean, certainly, those statistics, they're very alarming, and this is probably an undercount of even what the actual reality of what things are happening are. And I think all too often we look at these numbers and think, okay, well, that's something specific to Indigenous communities that live in remote or rural areas or the Arctic regions. But the reality is that the majority of Indigenous people live in urbanized centers, and the health care outcomes are not improving when they move into these urban centers. So it is not simply just about kind of the physical access to infrastructure. It's actually something much, much deeper rooted, and I think it's the poverty and the racism and discrimination.
Well, here's some numbers from a 2016 study using long-form census data. And researchers found that in Canada, 8.9% of infants born to Black parents were preterm, compared to 5.9% of white parents. In the United States, those rates were 12.7% and 8% respectively. The study's takeaway was that the racial gap was similar magnitude, even when you control for socio-demographic variables such as education and income. How does this square our perception of what public health looks like in Canada? Anya?
Well, I think, public health takes pride in addressing social determinants of health. So those are the conditions in which we live and trying to address those as best as possible. For instance, supporting policies for lower income families and things that would help to level the playing field for everyone in society. But I would say racism is the one that doesn't get enough attention. So you asked about how racism plays a role as a risk factor. And so when we're thinking about anti-Black and anti-Indigenous racism, it traces back to our history in Canada, right? And we ignore it. And even the United Nations has identified that in our institutions and in our systems here in Canada, anti-Black racism is pervasive, and so is anti-Indigenous racism. And so you look at our history of colonization, you look at our history of slavery, and how our institutions have upheld perspectives in which being white European puts you at an advantage across the board. So way before somebody has access to healthcare. And so this happens in people's lives in mainly two different ways. So this is how racism plays a key. One is being denied opportunities, right? So where one is being denied opportunities, even when you're trying your best and you're doing everything society says you can do, that's stressful. And so that stress affects people's hormone systems, it affects their immune system and makes them more likely to get sick in general, let alone when you're pregnant and you're more vulnerable. So to give an example, a study at McGill University, from McGill University showed that based on census data from 1996 to 2006, a Black person who had a university degree had similar unemployment rates to somebody who was non-Black and had dropped out of high school. So basically, if you were white in Montreal at that time and had dropped out of high school, your unemployment was about the same as a Black person who had a university degree. That's stressful. So even if you're able to put food on the table, that is a stressful condition that day in, day out, where you're denied opportunities because of your race, where you're the target of, you know, the police system or the justice system because of your race. That adds stress. And it might not be you personally, but it also happens at a community level. The second way is, of course, through being denied that opportunity, and that stress is further compounded when it leads to poverty. So as I mentioned before, Indigenous people are more likely to live in poverty. Black people are more likely to live in poverty, as well as other racialized groups. So when you can't afford the food, you can't, as you mentioned, you can't make your visits, you can't afford the medication, you're going to see worse outcomes. And so the numbers that you gave with regards to the Indigenous population, the other thing people sometimes think is it's biological, it's genetic. Well, when you look at African Americans in the United States, African American babies born to African American moms are twice as likely to die within the first year of life. And as you said, you mentioned it yourself, that even when you take into account income and education, there is that gap. Well, similarly, in Canada, we see that the Indigenous population, for babies who are born, they're twice as likely to die within the first year of life. They don't share a common mutation that is causing this. What they share is a history of social deprivation and marginalization and racism.
Is this what you would call systemic racism then?
Absolutely.
I think you all took part in an orientation session at the legislature earlier this week.
Yes.
What was that all about?
It was very exciting. So one of the things that I did as soon as we entered the chambers was really to go to the Conservative side and introduce myself to all the MPPs. Because, you know, we're all new to this job. We're all coming in with a lot of hope and a lot of energy and enthusiasm to serve our constituents. And it was just really nice to get to know each other, to know how the place works. And, you know, not as a staffer, but within the chambers.
What do they tell you?
A lot of it was really just administrative logistics, but one of the things that I thought was really great and something that resonated with me was when the speaker asked us to think about what the other side might be going through, the responsibility that they have as the government, and for the government side to think of the opposition members and our job in terms of trying to keep the government accountable. So to always have the other side's perspective and try to be in their shoes.
You'll note that today we did something a little unusual at this table here. Tory, New Democrat, Tory. We didn't seat you on opposite sides by party purposely because politics has gotten so bloody toxic these days that we didn't actually want to set it up as a confrontation here at the table. And I wonder, Christine, you first, how important is it to you, and if it's not, please be honest, but how important is it to you to take some of the toxicity out of politics nowadays?
I think it's extremely important. You know, as we say, there's no monopoly on a good idea. You know, moving forward as a team is so important under the leadership of Doug Ford. But then we have other people who will bring good ideas to the table, and that's not new to politics.
So if Sarah comes up with a good idea, you're open to pursuing it?
Absolutely. If it's something that has to do with our platform and will help the people of Ontario, I think that's our job. It's our responsibility to look at things.
Let me go at Sarah the same way then. If the government comes up with a decent idea that you think actually does move the yardsticks forward in a positive way, would you give them credit for it?
Absolutely. I think, again, to Christine's point, there is no monopoly on a good idea, and good ideas need to be implemented. And I think our role is really to make sure that things are being implemented in a way that's fair and keeping the government accountable and serving the people of this province in a way that they need at this point in time.
Stephen, how about for you? How much of what you want to do over the next 4 years involves getting so much of the useless partisan excesses and crap out of politics?
Well, look, I accept the premise that, you know, parliamentarians need to work together to improve public policy. I didn't get into this to create more impediments to our political system. I think our democracy, it actually is an imperative for us to serve our constituents first. So if that requires me to work with Sarah on legislation near Peel and York Region, then I will do that in good faith, because my constituents expect nothing less.
You do know you're all being recorded here, right? You know we have the ability to play this back at some point.
No, fair enough, and I'm happy to say it again. But I do want to say, you know, what took place at the orientation session, I think was very important, because it brought parliamentarians together, removing the political mean, notwithstanding that the New Democratic members sat in the opposition and the government on our side, it created a sense of unity of purpose, that we have to serve a greater entity than one's party, and that's the people of this province. And that's a message that was echoed by the Premier Designate, Doug Ford. He made it very clear, we are here to serve the people. I'm not trying to invoke the For the People slogan, Steve. I know you're giving me an eye, but truly reminding ourselves that it is the taxpayer and hardworking people in this province who deserve government to be on their side.
The impact of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission recommendations on Ontario classrooms to date. Significant? Not? What's your view?
Oh, absolutely significant. It has raised the consciousness and the awareness of educators across the province. I can tell you 30 years ago when I first started doing this work, I would do a session for teachers and there might be 6 people in the room. In the last month, I've probably talked to 2,000 educators across the province. And there's a deep awareness on the part of teachers that they need to do the work to engage with Indigenous experiences and perspectives, to access Indigenous knowledge, to be able to bring community members into the classroom, to work with them to deliver Indigenous content in their classrooms. And they are, the majority are wanting to do this work, but very challenged in terms of how to do it. And partnerships with community members are critical. And our teacher education program will be based at, it's a partnership with the Toronto District School Board, and the program is located at the Aboriginal Education Centre. So it's an Indigenous context where these students will be learning to be teachers with the Indigenous community right there. They'll be embedded in the Indigenous community. The First Nations School of Toronto, it shares the building. We have Dr. Duke Redbird and Dr. Joanne Dallaire, both Indigenous elders who are active participants in the community. So it's a very specific program that is aimed to be very cultivating this space where educators will feel very much supported as they do the work.
Sherry, let me get your take on how receptive you think non-Indigenous society is at this moment in our collective history to these new ideas, to the new information that you're going to bring forward in your institute, all of that.
That is a good question, a really hard question to answer, I think, because there are moments of real hope, I think, and there are moments that signify, I think, how much work there is to do. So, for example, the racist backlash against Colton Boushie's, or Gerald Stanley's trial and the death of Colton Boushie, I think, dredged up a lot of harsh racism against Indigenous people in the prairies and across the country, and that was difficult to watch.
You're referring to the not guilty verdict in that trial.
That's right, yeah. And then, but there were moments in I Don't Know More when you would see this outpouring of support of non-Indigenous people coming to rallies and crying at the sound of drums and really feeling like the healing process of colonization is everybody's work to do. So Yellowhead Institute really wants to situate itself to build a broad base of informed support for non-Indigenous people to be able to tune in when Indigenous people are speaking to issues and to learn what the context of Indigenous people's reactions to what's happening nationwide, and to pay attention to the kind of solutions that Indigenous people are putting forward, which are sometimes absent in the media. So, you get kind of a barrage of problems on reserves, but you never get all of the visionary and brilliant ideas that Indigenous people have to reconstruct their lives.
For a while, when I was 11 or so, I used to drop the empty cardboard toilet rolls into the John. They would take a while to disappear, 5 or 6 flushes usually, but I was in no hurry. The first 3 times the toilet clogged, my father went at it with the plunger, and that did the trick. Then, for some reason, the plunger wasn't enough. He ordered me to get his toolbox and to stand in the open doorway, ready to hand him whatever he called for. After draining the tank and turning off the water supply, he used his wrench on the lug nuts and unmoored the toilet from the floor, exposing a foul, corroded, fist-sized hole that stunk up the entire house. I held my breath and watched as he reached down into it and withdrew part of the roll I had flushed a few hours earlier. Who in the hell? That night there was a big lecture at the dinner table. When I get my hands on whoever's doing this, he didn't even use a glove, I thought, watching as he took a piece of bread from the wicker basket we had. A few nights later, I flushed another empty roll down the john, which clogged again. Out came the plunger, the tools, orders to stand in the doorway. The toilet was lifted off the floor, and as my father cursed and rolled up his sleeves, I must have laughed, or at least smiled in some telltale way. "You," he growled, looking up at me from his kneeling position on the floor. "You're the one who's been doing this." "Me? Don't even try to talk your way out of it." I offered some lame denial. "I hardly ever even go to the bathroom. You should ask Amy or Tiffany. They're the ones. You are going to reach down into this pipe and pick out that cardboard roll," my father said. "Then you are never going to flush anything but toilet paper down this toilet again." As I backed away, he pounced. Then he wrestled me to the floor, grabbed my hand, and forced it deep into what amounted to my family's asshole. And there it has been ever since, sorting through our various shit. It's like I froze in that moment with the same interests as that 11-year-old boy, the same maturity level, the same haircut, the same glasses, even.
Your dad's a real man, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Because that's nothing you'd ever do, right?
No.
Take the toilet off and put the... Anyway, that's such a great story. Why did you flush the toilet rolls down the toilet anyway?
You know, when I was writing that essay, it was about how my dad and I have never been able to speak to each other, and so never been able to speak to each other. And I always felt like as a boy that he didn't love me, that he didn't like me. You know what I mean? But then I started writing about some of the things that I did, and I thought, why would he like me? I mean, I know a child now, and I know you're not supposed to be this way about children, but he's not my child. He's somebody else's child. And I don't like him one bit. And I...
You're okay with that? It's sacrilege to say, but you're okay.
Right, it's not my child.
Yeah.
But I thought, well, if it was my own child, I wouldn't like him if he was my child either. But I did things like that all the time. Like we got new kitchen countertops. Everyone, oh, look at our kitchen countertops. They're orange. Everybody loved the kitchen countertops. I took an industrial stapler to the kitchen countertops. Or we had our family portrait done in pastel at the mall. And it was on the buffet right in front of a roast beef that was puddled in its own juices. And I just took my fist and I slapped that roast. And the blood spattered and dripped down our faces. And then I did it again. I mean, I was
This is classic
awful.
attention-seeking stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah, just awful.
But makes for great material in a book.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, but I wasn't thinking that at the time, like I can use it later.
And that is the Agenda's Week in Review for this Friday, June 22nd, 2018. You can see all of those conversations in their entirety on our website, tvo.org, on our YouTube channel, that's youtube.com/theagenda, and on our Twitter feed, that's twitter.com/theagenda.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.